Welcome back to Spitbucket, where I'm joined once again by Martin Krajewski from Chateau De Sours. We have been outside and hosed ourselves down with some cold rosé to try and get the blood pumping again. But the lights on either side are assailing us, so we shall move on quickly. Now, we should get into some wine.
Indeed.
All this education chat has made me thirsty. Tell us what we've got here, and what are we looking for? What are the grapes in here?
So here is Chateau De Sours Blanc, white 2009. This is a blend of 80% young Semillon, 80% young Sauvignon, and 20% old Semillon.
80% young Sauvignon, 20%
So
old
we're talking
Semillon.
about 5-6-year-old Sauvignon Blanc and 50-year-old Semillon. So the Sauvignon Blanc that we grow in Bordeaux isn't the same, does not produce the same wine as New Zealand New World Sauvignon Blanc. You see from the colour, the colours are really a combination of the two blends, the Sauvignon and the Semillon. A beautiful pale green gold wine.
I get, you don't get that really strong, herbaceous kind of character that you see in some Sauvignon Blanc, but you do get a lovely lemon rind kind of character, and I get some herbal sort of minerally action there.
For me, there's a beautiful floral honeysuckle nose, a grapefruit lift on this. Again, the fruit for this wine comes from the limestone plateau. So with the old Semillon, we're talking about roots that can be 15, 20 meters deep into the limestone. The limestone acts as a sponge in the winter. The water table rises. In the summer, it starts to go down. The roots have to go very, very deep down into the limestone to follow the water. And in so doing, they're picking up this marvelous minerality and all these wonderful characteristics. The wine, the Sauvignon and the Semillon fermented obviously separately. We're doing the Sauvignon Blanc in stainless steel, and the Semillon is in a combination of new and second and third year oak. Overall, it gives us about 30-35% of the wine which is exposed to, 30% of the wine which is exposed to oak, and the rest stainless steel.
I see what you're saying about that that grapefruit kind of character. That comes through on the palate a lot for me. I think if I had one thing to say, I'd like to see the finish go on a little bit longer. I don't know if I'm being unfair, but that might be my only comment. Otherwise, it's a very refreshing, very enjoyable white wine.
I think it's very textural in the mouth. I think it's very rounded, quite supple. For me, I understand what you're saying. Perhaps the finish is here rather than here.
Yeah.
But this is a wine that we're making to be drunk early. It's a wine that could age, and I think with aging would add some different characteristics and would provide perhaps a slightly long finish. The balance in the acidity for me is good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But quite happy to accept what you say in the finish. We at the same time are quite happy we can't change it now anyway.
Absolutely not. Let's move on to the red. Now, while I try and figure out this fancy French corkscrew apparently, which is very expensive, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what sort of varieties are in here.
So, Chateau De Sours Red 2008. Another successful year in Bordeaux, the first of 3 successful years, 2008, 9, 10. 100% Merlot. Not usual in Bordeaux. We normally are a blend. 8 years out of 9 years out of 10, we would expect to be predominantly Merlot, but with some Cabernet Sauvignon, some Cabernet Franc, maybe both, and even maybe a very, very tiny bit of Petit Verdot, if it was exceptional. However, on the right bank, which is more suited to Merlot, when it's perfect, you don't need to add anything. Merlot is typically quite feminine, we describe it as, elegant, perfumed. And if you're at all worried about the fact that it is 100% Merlot, let me just remind you that Chateau Petrus, which sells for 500 times the price of this wine, is usually 95, 99% Merlot as well. This wine, again, we're not looking to make the wine to last for 20 or 30 years. However, this wine will be drinking very nicely, I think, in 5 or 7 years,
Yep.
with a possible life of, let's say, 10 years.
For me, on the nose, I get really generous plumminess, which I think is always a good sign of pretty decent Merlot. And but it's got the earthiness as well that you don't get in a simple fruity Merlot. It's got the complexity to go with it, and a little bit of spice and sort of earthy leatheriness, which makes it really quite interesting to stick your nose into.
I think also you maybe just pick up a little bit of vanilla and menthol here, a little bit of leather, and just a little bit of spice as well. Certainly red and black, ripe red and black fruit flavors, blackberries, black currants, that sort of thing. Nice, clean, clear, crisp color. Still a very young wine, so one can feel a little bit of tannin.
Yeah, I think that your first taste, you get kind of almost luxurious, kind of svelte, suede fruit. And but then the tannins kind of kick in towards the end, and it's actually quite grippy.
You've really got to look at this wine and think about how this wine is going to be in a year or two's time, when the roundness really comes into its own.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Martin, for bringing all of these wines in. Have a look around for them if you're out. Definitely give them a try. At $30, you won't find anything from Bordeaux as interesting as this in Australia. So that's my hot tip. Go West Ham, and we'll see you soon on Spitbucket, where we spit so that you don't have to.
Salut.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Salut.